We're back with our breaking news coverage of Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, Michigan. Mark Santia joins us as well. Mark, I believe you have some new reporting.
Yeah, just, Katie, talking to law enforcement sources, investigators at the scene going very slow. They're working methodically because, remember, that truck is inside the building. The sheriff said the truck rammed through the front door inside the hallway. We're told they're working to identify the suspect. They're trying to use the VIN number on the vehicle. Any other identifications they're able to. There's a very large fire that was coming from that vehicle. Investigators were told by multiple law enforcement sources tell us they may have found materials, explosive materials in the vehicle. And that could be anything from a fuse to a bomb cap. So they may have found explosive materials in the vehicle. We're told not necessarily any functional IEDs, but components. So that's what they're looking at. You heard the sheriff, Sheriff Bouchard, says something ignited in that truck. They believe this could have possibly contributed to that ignition. So they're using a lot of caution right now, Katie. They do believe there was only one gunman, one suspect, and they're sort of going through that truck. They're beginning their investigation now.
There was a lot of smoke, and the sheriff said that for law enforcement to get in to respond, they had to don gas masks. Do we know if the person in the car was firing at all, had a gun? I know we've been calling it an active shooter situation, but I'm not sure if I've heard the sheriff say that the person in the car ever fired a gun.
He's not said that yet.
No.
He said they engaged with the person. We know that the security team, that Temple Israel has their own security team there. We know up to 10 shots were fired inside Temple Israel.
And we do know the security team fired shots.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we know that. We know one of the security team members was hit by that vehicle as it was barreling through the hallway. One of the members was knocked unconscious. That person is expected to be okay, but we don't know if there was an exchange of gunfire at this point.
All right. So the FBI in Detroit has just put this out. They led an active shooter attack prevention and preparedness training for the clergy and staff of Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, I believe back in January. The FBI course combines lessons learned from years of research and employs scenario-based exercises to help participants practice the decision-making process of run, hide, fight, and take necessary actions for survival. We appreciate them having us. This is, by the way, I'm sorry, this is not just new. This is a statement that they put out on January 30th, so just a couple months ago. They had been in this very temple to do this. What does that say to you, Ariel?
It's not surprising whatsoever. As we were discussing previously, every Jewish institution is fortified at this point, or is working to be fortified at this point. They have security teams. They coordinate with local and federal officials to make sure that there's surveillance, that they have cameras, that they have some kind of way to barricade, and that they teach their students these kinds of drills. So it's not surprising at all that the FBI would have coordinated this kind of training. It also speaks to how visible this community is. This is a visible, proud Jewish community there in Michigan. It's thousands of members of this temple. It's a pillar of this community. And just to bring it home about how tight-knit it is, even though it is a large community, we were talking to that state representative earlier who said his mother was at an event last night at this temple. The mother that I spoke to on the phone earlier, who was panicked and trying to figure out more information, she had also been at that same exact event at the temple last night. So it just shows how central this is.
It is the nation's largest Reform synagogue. Did you get a sense from anybody, Ariel, in your conversations that they expected to attend services over the weekend? That they expected to send their kids back? I mean, obviously there's damage, and that's got to be addressed, but that they expected to be able to send their kids back soon.
I'm sure that was the expectation, because no one thinks, even though you go through these trainings, even though there's coordination with state and federal officials, even though you know these things can happen, as we do with any kind of school shooting or any kind of incident at a public or private space, I think that there was an expectation that life would just carry on as normal, and that this can't happen in my community, that this happens other places. But as we know from our reports on the ground, like I said, from the Tree of Life synagogue shooting to other situations, these events do happen in communities, and thankfully this community was prepared.
Just hope it's not going to happen to you, or if something does happen, that you make it out okay. And in this situation, it appears that is the case. All right, so Rob, let's talk a little bit about what Mark Santia just reported, that there could potentially have been some components to an IED, maybe, but it does not appear that they are confident in saying, his sources, that there was a fully built explosive device?
Yeah, the components will tell a lot, though. During the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, our government got so good at understanding IEDs and filing how they're made, and they look online to see how some of these, like we talked about earlier, some of the websites tell these people how to build things. So basic components, if there's resistors and capacitors in there, and the way they're put into a device is an electronic footprint of who taught them how to build it. And we used to track bombers that way, and we used to track their students that way. So they started doing that with the online tutorials that they put out there, understanding if they're seeing certain chemicals, if they're seeing something, and how it's put together. And then also the sophistication of it talks to it. If you're looking at Iran, if we're talking possibly, maybe state-sponsored or something, you're looking at a different level of understanding of IEDs than you are someone that just got radicalized in their basement and is learning it online from, some website opposite. So all those are going to start giving clues to the people that are looking into this. And the IED, in its components, was it ready to fire, or was it, even if it was fully built, was the firing system, not complete enough to fire? The bomb experts are going to look at that when they take it apart to figure that out. So all those are going to be giving evidence to the investigators of where this person may be on the line of building an IED, or it just is random things that they thought may, light and start a fire and accelerate the fire. That's a big difference from an IED.
Yeah, that's a good point. The LAPD is monitoring this, as is the NYPD. Oftentimes when we see this, we get alerts from various law enforcement agencies across the country saying they've stepped up their security protocols and they're keeping a close eye on the situation. Tom, what is by the way, we're looking live we had been hearing about family reunification from the sheriff. He said it was happening. And I believe, Ariel, you said they went to the country club across the street.
Originally the country club, and then I believe that there was information they had taken them to a nearby community center. But we also heard from some families that they had warned them it could take up to an hour, a couple of hours to reunite some of these families with their kids, because obviously the perimeter there has been secured and that immense amount of law enforcement is on the ground there. So now you're just seeing those images of families holding hands with their kids. Yeah, and you can see,
these are small kids. There's a preschool inside the school. So the kids are, 3, 4, 5. They're young. And you have to believe that these parents were terrified out of their minds getting this news, or maybe they were there at the time. And so thankful that they're all okay. And the kids are acting like kids, which is amazing. They're so resilient. They probably have no idea what's going on. Thank God for them. But gosh, I'm just so happy we're seeing happy images of these families. So often when we look at this stuff, in the moment when we're covering this breaking news, there's a whole lot more terror on people's faces and grief, and we're not seeing that so much here, and thank God for that. But the question I had for you, Tom, as we're watching this, is what is the communication like between law enforcement now from West Bloomfield as they gather this information about this and get all the details about who the person was, what they were trying to do, how they tried to do it, and then maybe they go back and they figure out if the person surveilled the temple and had a plan, et cetera. How much of that information, how detailed does the transfer of information get between West Bloomfield and the LAPD or the NYPD and other law enforcement agencies around this country?
They share information very well. Everybody feels like, look, whatever this other agency learns, share it with us. We can learn the same lessons. So there's a great deal of sharing that goes on. Often the FBI and the federal agencies are the conduit for that information to be shared. But I can tell you that agencies like the LAPD and NYPD, they'll be reaching out to Oakland County to find out everything they can. Sheriff Bouchard's been around for a long time. He's very active with the Major County Sheriff's Organization, so he knows that there the value of sharing these kinds of lessons. I mean, they're gonna talk about, was the reason the guy used a vehicle to go in because the doors were locked, and because there's every chance that the doors were locked at this school, because that's what the recommendations are. That the only way people get in is to be buzzed in. They're going to also look at this whole issue about, there's smoke. Well, is that chemical or biological? Anything harmful there? That's one of the reasons that this is, at this point, it goes so slow. You've put people in their gear and the bomb suits that are approaching this, searching the car, making sure there's nothing else that's harmful in the car, so that the scene can be rendered safe, so that the rest of the investigation can continue. But until the bomb squad ensures that everything is safe with the car, everything's sort of on hold. But this information will get shared throughout the country, and certainly there's intelligence analysts. They have networks where they share information so that, again, everybody can learn the same lesson and take preventative measures.